St. George and the dragon pressed in paper. The sweat upon your forehead, it did not fall in vain. It didn't fall in vain. Sometimes it feels like heaven, and sometimes it feels like hell. But you keep on going until it gets hard to tell. And your body moves with the grace of an archangel, like a stroke of genius from Raphael. The crowd was still like a fresco in a chapel. Night 7 in the 5th of Saint Sebastian must have been beside you always. The greatest match in history, you put them all to shame. 4 hours in a Rolex could not push you away. You did it for yourself, now the people sing your name. The people sing your name. Sometimes it feels like heaven, and sometimes it feels like hell. Sometimes you keep on going until it gets hard to tell. Sometimes your body moves with the grace of an archangel. Sometimes it's stroke of genius from Raphael. Sometimes it feels.
It is Beatenberg coming through with Raphael, and they released a brand new track last year, and it's titled Don't Call Her Over to You. And I wonder if there was I'm presuming that there was a full album that then followed the release of the single. What I love about them, I was just reading an interview, and they say when asked about their legacy, they say that whenever you see any interviews where we talk about our music, there's a mix of bewilderment and gratitude towards the fact that we found this place in South African music. And they went on to say that we all know how difficult it is to make it in the music industry. You can be hardworking or have a lot of ability, but there's an element of chance that seems to come into all of this stuff. It's also of interest, by the way, that, when the band speaks around the process of making music, they oftentimes say that for them it's very instinctual. It's very much about, the moment and the feeling in the moment. It's never a particular formula that speaks to some kind of justification or reasoning, or maybe a thought process that leads to, a really constructed narrative of what it is they want to do with a song or an album at any particular time. And maybe this is what makes them so attractive, not just here, but internationally as well. And they fluctuate between South Africa and London and Berlin these days, and have found themselves, a home across those territories. That is how we kick off the show today with Beatenberg, Raphael. We got an easy day today, but it is jam-packed. We're going to have a conversation around tourism and how we unlock the full potential of the South African tourism sector, and perhaps collaboration here could be key. We're also going to be dipping into stages, pages, screens, and more with a interesting production that is taking place as part of the University of Pretoria's schedule. And then on the other side of 2 o'clock for our legal guide today, we're looking at understanding the boundaries of when management styles cross into workplace harassment. So that is the conversation we're going to be exploring with Bowman, who are a legal firm, after 2 o'clock. So if you want some advice, perhaps you find yourself in a situation with your manager or with the person directly in authority of your being at work, you can definitely start sending through those inquiries on 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. We'll also let you know what else is coming out on the other side of 2 closer to that time. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. And because we are firmly in Heritage Month, as part of some of the conversations that we're going to be having, some historical conversations. We're going to be having some lighter conversations where we just try to gauge where you are socially as South Africans. We thought we'd put out a random thought to you and find out, how are you? How are you by way of the interracial relationships that you have? Do you have any friends that are outside of your race? And I'm not talking about people that you are cordial with, at the workplace cooler. I'm not talking about Susie who's sitting next to you at the desk right now. But I'm talking about, does Susie come to your house on Saturdays and your kids hang out together and you guys go shopping and, you tell Susie about everything that's going on in your life and with your husband, and John is your boy, and you guys go to the gym together and you'll talk about the stresses of, being men and being married, and as young kids would say, that they're your boys, they're your homies. Do you have real interracial friendships, like real ones, honest ones, true ones? Do you have real interracial friendships? And if you don't have them, why don't you have them? Or if you had them at some point and then the older you got, you kind of let them fizzle out and die a natural death, what justified that, you not putting any energy into them? We'd love to hear from you. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, and 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. And that is our family meeting today. So hopefully you will share with us some of your more personal experiences. Let's take a quick break.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that? Yes. I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Ashopol is over 110 years old and was born out of the desire to serve South Africans who work hard to build this country from the ground up. With over 5 million lives covered and named Best Life Insurer by Forbes, Ashopol is here for you today and will be there for your family tomorrow. SMS serve to 44366 and we'll call you back. Ashopol is an insurer licensed to conduct life insurance business, an authorized financial services provider. FSP 53. T's and C's apply.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
So it is Tourism Month, and we thought we'd have a conversation around unlocking the full potential of South Africa's tourism sector, and perhaps here collaborative solutions are better for sustainable growth. And we are inviting into the conversation the Managing Director of MSC, Ross Falk, and Kaule Nyelende, my apologies, Kaule Nyelende Mpapuli, who is a tourism and marketing at the Sandparks. How are you both doing? Kaule, how are you?
Good afternoon, Bridget, and good afternoon to your listeners. We are doing very well, thank you. It's a great month to be in tourism.
I can imagine.
Thank you very much.
Ross, are you doing all right as well on your end?
Yeah, Sabon Unjan, and very nice to chat to you with your listeners. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's it's a good month, and also celebrating Heritage Month. We've got the Springboks doing well. What could be better?
Right. Ngapila Ross, thank you so much for asking, Ngapila Mpela. Let's get into the conversation around tourism. I mean, I love the fact that you guys both sounding very enthused and excited about the month that lays ahead. And I presume when you work and operate in the space, right, the month comes with, on the one side, a lot of business reflections of the year that has been thus far and how to maximize and make it better, but also probably brings about conversations around opportunity and what the future looks like. Let's start with you, Kaula.
Indeed, it's quite a great month, a great time for us, Bridget. As you would be aware, I mean, like as tourism, with the pandemic, we come from an extremely tough 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I think starting from last year, we are starting to see great recovery, and we are moving much closer to where we were before the pandemic. So that basically gives us hope. It's not to say there are still, everything is perfect and there are no challenges, because as you would be aware is that our industry is basically one that is curated in terms of wants, not necessarily needs. So it is basically fed off from your disposable income. So it becomes susceptible and vulnerable to any economic pressures that are there. So it's something that we look out for, and also in terms of travel patterns, capacity that's going to be available to come to South Africa. So those are all elements that we look into to see how it will fare. But it's a very hopeful time for us, and we are seeing a good recovery.
And of course, Ross, to what Kaule just said about, the industry being curated on the basis of wants, how do you then as an industry sort of plug into that and ensure that even though particularly South Africans are cash-strapped at the moment, they still very much prioritize rest and relaxation, which essentially is what feeds into our need to travel and to explore?
It's a very good question. And following on from Kaule's position, it's a tough industry to be in, and we obviously look forward to September with great excitement, being Tourism Month. I think it comes down to your marketing strategy and what you're looking at trying to put forward as a value proposition for South Africans. And, looking at cruises being all-inclusive, do you want to go to the beach? Do you want to go to Cape Town? What opportunities are there within South Africa for you to use? And I think it comes down to that marketing strategy and the communication tools you're using to touch base with the South African psyche of the desire and the need to take a break. I think South Africans, we focus quite a lot on the negative. And I think we should probably start looking at what positives we can celebrate all the time, and one of the positives is the fact that we have such a diverse country and such a diversity of cultures that we need to embrace and enjoy. And I think that's the message we've got to look at spreading as a tourist industry, but specifically each company within it, is to look at the principles around how do we go and market these destinations.
Now, when we look at the fact that tourism currently contributes around just under 4% is what I understand to the GDP, but it is considered as a big economic driver and its potential to also create long-term and short-term employment for South Africans. Let's talk about where the challenges are faced in the sector in order for y'all to to really just maximize on that. One, growing its economic input, and the other hand also plugging in to the question around employment or unemployment in the country. Ross, let's go back to you, and then we'll double back to Kaula.
Sure. Yeah, I think tourism has the absolute potential to assist with the unemployment crisis that we face in South Africa. You know, we're a friendly country. We've got great positive energy around what we do, and we've got a great sort of ethos about us, and we're resilient. So I think we've got the opportunity as a tourism sector to go and drive that through the utilization of people and projects. I think for me, the solution comes down to a collaboration between communities, government, and the private sector in order to try and ensure the growth and expansion, and to ensure that we are all proactively driving towards a better involvement of that compact and social construct between those three entities. So policies are put in place, infrastructure is built. Security is a big, significant one for me. You need to keep a safe and secure citizenry in order to promote a beneficial tourism sector. And then obviously also what we need to do from a public-private partnership to ensure that we grow the sector.
Kaula, I mean, Ross brings up collaboration being central to the success of the industry.
Indeed, I could not agree more. Collaborations are quite critical. And I think I can just lay back on also our organization, which is Sandparks. That is basically what we build our commercialization of tourism offering on. So we are able to provide other exciting opportunities or things that are not core to the organization through public and private partnerships. So that's a way of also bolstering growth and acknowledging that we all need to work together as a sector to be able to grow employment. As you've already mentioned, tourism becomes a critical driver in terms of having a large touch point in terms of impact. And that's largely because the jobs we can absorb, you can start from entry level all the way up. So you are able to make an impact to potentially a person who is a cleaner or a driver, a lodge owner. So the value chain is quite long and wide. So that is why it's critical for us to collaborate and be in partnership in order to make sure we drive the growth of the holistic sector.
And I mean, at Sandparks, you guys are part and parcel of communities around the country. And how do you ensure engaging those local communities in tourism development, and also making sure that they too feel as if they are benefactors to the business that is being conducted in and around their environments?
Indeed. So we consider communities to basically be our partners in growing tourism. So one of the critical elements that we have is we typically have educational drives to make sure that even the children around the parks, they are aware of the product offering that we have, and also just closer at looking at opportunities in ways that we can interact and engage and make society better. We try to make sure that neighboring communities can have access to employment. That's when you also, due to some of the challenges we deal with, you get to understand the value of the tourism offering that we basically have. But beyond that, we also make sure in weeks and months such as these in tourism, we give access to our communities to enter our parks for free, so that they can also be advocates and be able to share and understand what is the product that we are offering and what is in their backyard. So it's a really symbiotic relationship where we thrive off each other, and we also believe that in order for us to unlock all these challenges that we potentially deal with as a country, such as crime, that's where our solutions lie. They lie in strong partnerships with our communities. And beyond that, there would be other authorities, but it's important to be able to speak to the hearts of our communities.
Ross, let's look at your business, MSC. There are people and folks who live for a good cruise. they love it. And you traverse all over the world with your operations, from what I understand. And what does that speak to by way of the innovative partnerships, perhaps, that need to be in place to make, this kind of business a success, not just domestically, but also internationally?
Yeah, it's an incredibly large business globally. We operate in all the four corners of the globe, 23 ships operating around the world. The partnerships that we have, both locally and internationally, are quite important to the success of the operation. And, it's really about speaking about collaboration. You want to partner with people that you've got similar value sets, similar relationship styles, and drive that relationship through in terms of benefiting both yourself and the communities around you. Take a look, for example, at the Durban cruise terminal that we built. 300 million rand investment in Durban. 75% of the total spend was spent in South Africa. The only thing that we couldn't source was the steel structure that had to be specially made. But everything else, from the labor through to all of the other products, are all sourced from a South African source. And that's kind of the ethos of what we need to ensure: better tourism and better growth in South Africa, but also the success of MSC globally.
I want to take a quick pause here, and then we'll come back on the other side and wrap up our conversations by perhaps looking at some of the challenges that are faced within your respective businesses in tourism, and how do we move to make that better, especially if we're looking at a conversation around sustainable growth of the sector. It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM, leading the conversation.
A very good afternoon. With the news headlines, Kimudubima Khalemele. 2 suspected criminals have been set alight in a mob justice incident at Muteti village in Denelton in Mpumalanga. Panga pastor Basekamboro Mutswaneng has been granted 3,000 rand bail in the Palm Bridge Magistrates Court on the east of Joburg, and the DA in KZN says its councillors are trusted by voters, as the party's good results in yesterday's by-elections showed. And those are your headlines. A full news update coming up 2 o'clock.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It's just gone 1:30 on The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. And of course, we are in conversation around Tourism Month and how do we unlock the full potential of South Africa's tourism sector. Collaboration has been a big part of the conversation. And as we went into a break, I just want to gauge your thoughts around perhaps some of the challenges that are faced from a business perspective within the sector. And of course, Ross, both yourself and Kahula alluded earlier on to issues around safety and even inadequate infrastructures.
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, by way of an example, the Mediterranean is 3,500 kilometers in width. If I was to ask the listeners to provide a list of ports that you can call at, I think they would be able to list, several hundred. But if we take a look at South Africa, with the fourth longest coastline in Africa at 2,800 kilometers, we only have 4 ports that we're able to call at. And that's just the first part of the problem. The second part comes down to, where do we go and take people from an infrastructure perspective? Cape Town is lucky; it possesses wonderful attractions very close to the port, but Durban, not necessarily as much. Most of what they have to offer is within the hinterland. And how do we get there in that, efficiently and effectively? And then, as I keep saying, in these conversations, security is an important factor. If a citizen doesn't feel safe, then they're not going to be they're not going to welcome people the way they need to. They're not going to look at it from a positive perspective, the tourism expansion. So we need to look at also how we secure both the citizens and those visiting the country to make sure there's no negative publicity going out on any incidents that occur. The worst thing that can happen to us is a tourist from X country being attacked or mugged or whatever in a part of South Africa, and that message is then pervaded across the world, as we know. So we've got to look at the two elements of security. Firstly, in my opinion, is to make sure that the citizens of South Africa are safe, and secondly, to look at how we then secure our tourist attractions. And a happy country is a positive country.
Absolutely. Kaula, anything to add on that?
Indeed, Bridget. I think also some of the solutions probably are based on what you have mentioned, which is collaborations. I think with collaboration, we can move forward with some of the elements. More so when you speak to safety and security, making sure that as organizations as well, we create these spaces in which we are able to engage our police authorities, we are able to engage provincial authorities, and also, as I've already mentioned, communities. And in terms of maintenance and also infrastructure development, indeed, I think the past 3 years, our strongest focus as an industry was basically survival. However, as it stands now, where we are in a point where we need to actually reevaluate and assess what are the new emerging trends within tourism that are required in terms of infrastructure. That's when then we need also those collaborative efforts with regards to partners who would be able to support to drive the industry. And as SANParks, I think we would say we are in a fortunate position where we do get some support as a government entity in terms of funding, be it from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, which is our mother department, as well as the Department of Tourism. So we do use that to make sure that those funds to upgrade the facilities that we currently have.
Yeah. Ross, I'll let you have the last bite, on Kaula's sentiment about perhaps gearing up to get ready for the trends that you guys are seeing in the industry. And what might those be and what needs to be done perhaps over and above just some of the concerns that you've highlighted?
I think we need to have a genuine travel data that provides a platform for us to talk about the issues, but also more importantly about solutions. It's one thing to go and look at problems and identify them, but we've got to do this in an honest and open fashion. And, I think we've got to look at what the tourism trends globally are looking like and how do we attract those visitors to South Africa. Kaula has obviously got a great product, the Kruger National Park. I love going there. And it's a very positive tourist attraction for South Africa. But what do we look at from a trends perspective? Cruising, the US is a big dominant market. Europe is having one or two challenges in relation to over tourism. So what do we do as South Africa in order to attract that? We provide a good platform, a safe environment, and a positive experience for those guests, and then we can attract real numbers.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for the conversation this afternoon. It's been a pleasure. That was Ross Falk, Managing Director of MSC, and of course, Kaula Nilenda Mpapule, who is the Tourism and Marketing at SANParks. And this little show is going out to SANParks in this month of Tourism Month. We're going to be out there at SANParks. We'll keep you posted on those developments closer to the time. It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga on SAFM. Let's take a quick pause here and then we come back and we get into stages, pages, screens and more.
EFC is live this Thursday. The bantamweight title is on the line, live from the World Sports Betting Arena, as the top-ranked divisional contenders and perennial fan favorites Faiz Jacobs and Vince Bembe go to war.
Oh, big rock for Faiz Jacobs. The finish is over. What a win. When he smells blood, he hunts mercilessly for the finish.
EFC is live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
There's no road our Buckies haven't traveled on. Roads to new beginnings. Roads to many firsts.
Sansa, enjoy your day at school.
Roads to delivering precious cargo.
Breathe, honey. We're almost there.
Even roads to saving the day.
Hey, we're gonna have to tow you.
With every road that we've traveled for 45 years, we are what a bakkie should be. Bold, capable, and reliable. Introducing the new limited edition D-Max 45, equipped with everything you need for every kind of adventure. Isuzu, with you for the long run.
Hey, you know, Ntwana, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Niti shwe. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, Buying the Dream. Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3. And channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up. S3.
Stages, pages, screens, and more on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
So before we even get into stages, pages, screens, and more, I mean, we threw out this random thought today because we're exploring all kinds of conversations during this Heritage Month, right? And yesterday we had a lovely conversation around some South African nations and tribes that perhaps we know very little about, and there was so much learning. But then today we thought that we'd just have a random thought based on our own private conversations that we have in the corridors of SAFM and looking at how we socialize. And the conversation is, or the question to you is, how many friends do you have outside of your race? Do you have friends outside of your race? Like, do you have interracial friendships? And we mean real significant friendships, not people that you just hang out with at work or when you're forced to go in team building or on the occasion you'll get together and you'll go watch a Springboks rugby game as a group of colleagues, but people that you just naturally, really honestly, authentically call your friends. You'd call them if you're getting married, if you're having an emergency, if your daughter's graduating. You want them there for all of your life moments, and they happen to be people outside of your race. And if you don't have them, why don't you have them? What has been some of the thinking? I mean, I certainly know that a lot of us have entertained this conversation with our friendship circles about why we don't have friends, from our races or from other races. So we'd love to know what your thinking is around this, and you can always be anonymous. It's a place of non-judgment, so you can tell us your reasons true to yourself, because that's really what we want to hear. We want to hear your honest truth about why you don't have friends from other races. 0614 and 04107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. We've got joining us now Rikus Delport, who's the Director of Institutional Advancement and spokesperson for the University of Pretoria. And they're putting together the Principals Concert, which they say is a highly anticipated event on the university's calendar. And it's dedicated to orchestrating captivating and entrancing experiences that enrapture our audiences. Ooh, sounds very exciting. How are you doing this afternoon, Rikus? Are you good?
I'm good. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you for making the time. The Principals Concert, give us some history around this particular concert. Is this the first installation? Obviously not, because it's highly anticipated.
No, it isn't. Yes, it's been going on for more than 10 years. So it's basically a platform where students and staff come together to showcase their talents. It's all about how so some of them are musical students full-time, some of them are part-time students just interested in music, playing an instrument, and some of them are staff members. And the School of Arts, our well-known School of Arts, then bring them all together every year in the form of a Principals Concert where we have 2 nights. The first night usually opens to all staff members. We used to call it in the past the dry run, because this was really the opportunity to run up to the big event, which was the following night, where we would invite some of our donors, some of our alumni and members from the industry and government to come and attend and to experience our talents firsthand. So, yeah, and this is happening tonight's the first night, and tomorrow is the second night of the event.
I mean, it's quite the exploration, right? Because it features, from what I understand, an array of artistic genres. Walk us through what the evening programming might look and sound like.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year the theme is Make Today Matter, the light we cast. So it's a musical, what we call a transformative musical journey. It's the concept will blend choirs, orchestras, soloists, and visual and dramatic arts to help them and guide listeners or the audience from darkness through to light and through separate sections. And it's all about, talking about the current issues, really starting a little somber, maybe talking about the conflict issues and climate change and everything else we are currently experiencing, and then building up to a crescendo where it's really about the light, going out into the light, experiencing a lot that we have to celebrate about. So it's going to be really a 3D experience. So it's not just the music, but it's also the visuals, the big impact that we're going to make. And we do this by combining the strengths and the skills of, we have our own symphony orchestra, the UP Symphony Orchestra, and then obviously the well-known Vua Cultural Ensemble, UP Chorale, and the UP Camerata Choir, also very well-known, coming together and presenting this.
Oh, wow. I mean, so it's quite the big deal night. And you really put out, the very best that UP has to offer.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're very proud of our students and our staff who really they go out of their way to really make this a big, spectacular event, and everybody is really proud of it. We have a big theatre called the Ola that kind of accommodate about 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Last year it was in the Ola again, but the previous year it was out on the lawns in front of the Old Arts building, where we created a bit of a outdoor picnic type atmosphere. It was really great, and it is a great event for us and everybody. Tickets on staff night is sold out within a few hours. So it just shows you how popular it is.
Absolutely. The other element of the principals' concert that is quite important is the giving element, because UP has run this campaign and initiative for the missing middle for a while now. The Giving Matters, UP's Giving Matters campaign. Give us context for those folks who've missed all the conversations that we've had with respective UP representatives around Giving Matters.
Yes, of course. So, as you know, there's obviously a lot of challenges within the university environment. Students, constantly facing issues around funding and so on. And we've launched the UP Giving campaign about 2 years ago to raise approximately 100 million rand for students over the 3-year period. I'm really pleased to say that we've raised up to date 85 million, 85.5, close to 86 million rand to date. We have another 4 months to go before the end of the campaign. But a very important part of the campaign is what we call the Beetle campaign. So interestingly enough, we one of the longest-serving vice-chancellors of the university, Professor Rotenbach, who served from 1948 to 1970, used to drive this old Beetle. Well, it was new at the time. It was a brand new 67 Beetle at the time, a very unique Beetle. It's a black Beetle that he used to drive from home to work. So as you can imagine, it's not a fancy car for somebody in his position. And he was asked about that many times. And he used to famously respond by saying that it's not, I provide my car with status, not the other way around. So that's quite important. That was quite funny. So his family, on his death, donated the car to the university. And, instead of, the car is still in its original form, so very little has been done to the car, and it's still in running order. But instead of keeping it here, paying the license fees and the maintenance every year, we decided let's do something good with the car. And the family gave it back to the university. Let's get back to the university community. So what we did is we put out the car on a raffle. So you can win the car by buying a ticket for 67 rand.
Okay.
But that money goes towards the University of Pretoria's vice principal, student fund. So, and that will help students then again to through with their studies. Students who find it financially difficult to pay for their studies, they will then be able to apply to that fund.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story. And so far we've sold about 8,000 tickets. Our target is 10,000, and we were hoping for 15,000 tickets. So yeah, it's a great initiative, and we're looking forward to it. And it comes to an end on the 22nd of September.
Oh, I mean, listen, incredible. I always love hearing the stories coming out of UP. So we still have time for those who want to go bid on the old professor's Beetle. It's a 1967 VW Beetle. Oh, there was a time, I tell you, Rikus, where I was a big fan of a Beetle. Maybe just for nostalgia's sake, I should also throw in my 67 Rand in the pot. Where do we go for those who want to buy a raffle, who maybe even can't even attend, the principal's concert starting tonight, but still want to partake and give back by way of contributing to Giving Matters?
So if you go, that's a great question, and we'd love you to buy tickets. The more, the best. I mean, and it's of course you can win the ticket, but it's also going for a good cause, towards students. So you can go to the university's website. That's probably going to be the easiest. It's up.ac.za. No, I'm talking rubbish. Yeah, it is up.ac.za. There you will find all the details about the Beetle. You can click on the Beetle icon, and it'll take you through to our Giving Matters website, where you can then purchase a ticket online. It's really easy and simple. You put in your details, you get you pay you can buy any number of tickets, and then you get your ticket numbers are sent to you, and and then the big draw will happen following the closing of the campaign on the 22nd of September.
Wonderful stuff. You've got a little ways to go, but we have all the faith in you. So if you want to get behind the University of Pretoria, this is a wonderful initiative, Giving Matters, and we've been touching base with them throughout the course of, the last 2 or so years since its inception. They're on a mission to raise 100 million Rand, and that is to close the gap for their students in the missing middle categories. And as you've heard, they're sitting at around 85.6 million right now, just under 86 million, with a little ways to go. So maybe, we all scramble together with friends and colleagues, and we throw whatever rands we have into an incredible initiative. And there's also an opportunity for you here to buy a 67 Rand raffle for that iconic 1967 VW Beetle. It's a keepsake. It's part of the University of Pretoria's history and heritage, and it's up for raffle to one lucky winner. That website again, up.ac.za, is where you can go to get the necessary information if you can't make it to the principal's concert tomorrow. Thank you so much for the time today, and we will touch base with you all at the end of the month to see how much we surpassed that 100 million Rand target with. I'm pretty sure you're going to jump that hurdle in no time. That was the Director of Institutional Advancement and spokesperson for the University of Pretoria, Rikus Delport. The principal's concert is on tonight. If you can't make it, then absolutely you can still be part of all of that goodness that they've got going on at the University of Pretoria by donating your 67 runs to that Beetle raffle, or just going on to Giving Matters and donating to their Giving Matters campaign. It is just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. Let's take a quick pause.
After cutting the Buccaneers' continental journey short last season, Botswana Giants, joining Galaxy, want to make beating the black and white outfit a good habit. They meet again, but Sir Rivero's boys plan to take full control at Botswana National Stadium. This is the second preliminary round of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience great vibes of African football. Joining Galaxy FC versus Orlando Pirates FC. This Saturday, 14 September at 4 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
4 dynamic dynamic design duos reimagine and reinvent 4 apartments in a century-old building nestled in the vibrant suburb of Sea Point, Cape Town. Armed with creativity, determination, and a limited budget, the duos fight against the clock to transform this grand old dame into a contemporary masterpiece, all under the critical eyes of an expert judging panel. The winning duo will claim a grand prize of 300,000 Rand, with an additional 100,000 Rand going to the fan favorite team, as voted by viewers. Channel your inner wow with My Design Rules, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3. The wait is finally over, and we can safely say that Tropica Island of Treasure is back to serve you some really great entertainment. Tune into S3 from the 28th of September to cheer on the 7 teams who will be vying to win a shared prize of 1 million Rand, a brand new car each, and become the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure Season 11. Fancy 50,000 bucks? Predict the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure, and you might be sipping that cold, refreshing Tropica all the way to the bank. Follow at MyTropica and at SABC3 for more information. Channel your inner champion with Tropica Island of Treasure. Starts Saturday the 28th of September at 6:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
We're busy kicking off air with Masichaba Kumalo, who is joining us now to talk about this initiative, and it's Cooking for Fashion, a unique culinary experience with a purpose. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm very well, thank you, Bridget. And how are you doing?
I'm great. I mean, your voice is always just,
like yours.
Do they tell you?
They do. Do they tell you?
I mean, sometimes, but
they better.
I think you get it more. Okay, let's talk about this initiative. I mean, let's talk about Cooking for Fashion. So it's a one-of-a-kind event, right? Tell me a bit about it.
So I was approached by these 2 young students of the Vilioti Fashion Institute. Their names are Joyce Kubo and Nomaswazi Tlachwayo, who basically are putting together an event that is not just a culinary event, but an event with a purpose.
Okay.
And what's going to be happening on the day, which is the 14th of September, Saturday, this Saturday at the Freedom Park in Pretoria, is that they are inviting people to come and experience a gourmet culinary cooking course where you get to learn how to prepare a really beautiful gourmet 3-course meal, and you get to dine and enjoy the meal from the starters to the main course to the dessert. And also there'll be very wonderful mixologists teaching you how to prepare like a cocktail on the absolute day of the event. So it's going to be wonderful.
Oh, I mean, already my taste buds are salivating. Anytime you mention good food, I am definitely there. And the fashion element of it comes together how? Are we enjoying also a wonderful showcase of what the students have in offer from Vilioti?
This is the interesting part. So they were given a project as a school, right? The students were given a project to go and think about how they can come up with a charity event, which is what it is basically, to incorporate fashion. And they decided to pull in food as well, which is why it's called Cooking for Fashion. So what they're doing in terms of bringing the 2 worlds together is that they're going to be designing the aprons that are going to be given courtesy of themselves and the event, Cooking for Fashion, to the participants, attendees, and then they're going to be incorporating the main sponsor, who is Dandozest Foods, that have absolutely been incredible. I take my hat off to anyone who would put their back behind an initiative that has to do with the development of young people. So they've done that. So they've even given up their restaurant, Dando Zest restaurant at the Freedom Park Museum in Pretoria, where they're even providing their resources, their chefs.
Oh, lovely.
There will be professional chefs on the day who will be taking you through how to create these gourmet meals.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, listen, I think anytime, we sometimes don't think about food from an artistic perspective, right? And unless you're talking to someone like Awandile Mabaso, who then talks about the culinary art of it. But food has this incredible way of interpreting so many artistic disciplines onto a plate. And I think the synergies are right there with fashion.
Absolutely. There are synergies because at the end of the day, it's part of our lifestyle.
Yeah.
We eat every day. We get dressed every day. So these are two things that are a part of...
We get dressed up to go eat.
Yay, girl. So these are two things that are part of our DNA, that are intrinsic in our everyday being. And so how these beautiful women, young ladies, have come together to create like a concept that really speaks to the day-to-day things that we engage in anyway. But they're using it for a purpose because all proceeds will be going to the Fashion Foundation.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, that's the amazing
Who are
part.
the Fashion Foundation? Tell us more.
All right, so the Fashion Foundation is an institution that is invested in making sure that the dreams of young, aspiring fashion designers come true. And so it's ensuring that they have the same opportunity as other people, as they themselves have had, to ensure that they can then go study and ensure that they can be a part of the economy and become top fashionistas in whatever part of the channel or the distribution network that they aspire to be.
All right. In our last moment, by way of the important details, we know you said Freedom Park. And then, if I want to come through and I'm listening, is it an invite-only situation?
Well, you can buy your ticket. It is 600 Rand a ticket. Bring your family, bring your wife, bring your husband, bring your gal, bring your children along because this is going to be spectacular. It's a full-day event filled with cooking lessons and also dining as well. And you can do so by just making sure that you get to the platforms, the social media platforms that Dando Zest on Instagram, on Facebook as well, just to get more information about how to purchase a ticket. You can log on to my profile as well on Instagram or Facebook at Masachaba Kumalo and just make sure that I'll have a poster right there to show you how to book your place. Seats are limited because obviously it's a restaurant.
Yes.
It's a professional kitchen, so we can only have a limited number of people there.
Wonderful stuff. It's always a pleasure. That was Masichaba Kumalo. She needs no introduction. Let's take a quick break here and then we get into Madupi Makhalemele and the headline news. Well, the news, really.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. Simply SMS CAR to 43187 now.
The top stories this hour: a fatal mob justice incident in Limpopo, and the Panga pastor Motsweneng is granted bail. A very good afternoon. 2 suspected criminals have been set alight in a mob justice incident at Mudeti village in Denelton in Limpopo. According to information, the victims were cornered by a mob after allegedly trying to commit housebreaking. An angry mob allegedly assaulted the victims before setting them alight. Police have confirmed the incident, saying they are investigating. Incredible Happenings Church pastor Paseka Mboro Motsweneng has been released on 3,000 Rand bail in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court in Ekurhuleni. His bodyguard, who is Mboro's co-accused in the matter, has been released on a warning. The pair were arrested last month after being shown on a video storming a primary school, brandishing a panga, while forcefully removing 2 pupils believed to be Mboro's grandchildren on the east of Joburg. The matter has been postponed to the 21st of next month. President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to answer oral questions before the National Council of Provinces in Parliament this afternoon The proceedings are part of the annual oversight responsibility conducted by both houses of the institution over the work of the executive. Some of the oral questions the President is expected to give answers to relate to the ongoing scourge of extortion incidents and how the government plans to combat poverty and unemployment. Ramaphosa is also going to give an update on when the signing of the Health Compact Bill will take place. The DA in KZN says its councillors are trusted by voters as the party's good results in yesterday's by-elections showed. The party won 5 wards. It was contesting 3 wards in eThekwini, 1 in Umdoni on the south coast, and 1 in the KwaDukuza municipality. The MK party snatched a ward from the ANC in the Rainkoni municipality, while the IFP retained its ward in the Nkandla municipality. The DA's Francois Rogers says his party is showing growth.
The Democratic Alliance in KwaZulu-Natal is delighted with yesterday's by-election results. Of huge success was the eThekwini Ward 33 by-election, where the support for the DA went from 39 to 80%, and Ward 35, where we went from 80 to 91%. And the KwaDukuza by-election, we got over 98%, as we did in Umdoni. This just once again shows us that where our councillors, our ward councillors, voters trust them. They trust them to hold the municipality to account and to fight for service delivery. And this all bodes very well for 2026, when, particularly in eThekwini, we need a change of government, and a government that's led by the DA.
The Road Accident Fund, RAF, says it believes that the migration of fraudulent claims from the agency to the healthcare sector is due to the strengthening of its systems. The health sector has seen an increase in fraudulent medical legal claims, with most of them being from law firms which have been claiming from the RAF. Addressing the media last month, Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi stated that the high numbers seem to coincide with the RAF strengthening its systems. RAF spokesperson Macintosh Bolela.
What has tightened the screws and caused the migration, I believe, is the establishment of the unit called the Forensics Investigations Department, where we investigate and we look at all the claims that come through to the RAF. And what has resulted in that is that we've been able to stop, for instance, in the past 3 years, fraudulent claims to the tune of 2.6 billion rand.
And Russian drones have inflicted a significant damage to the northern Ukraine town of Konotop's energy infrastructure in an overnight attack that wounded at least 14 people and cut electricity to the settlement. Rescuers are working to restore power in the town, which had a pre-war population of about 83,000. Konotop is in the Sumy region, which has been particularly targeted by Russia in recent weeks after Ukraine used the region as a staging ground for a surprise incursion into Russia last month. The top story at 2 o'clock. Panga Pastor Basekamboro Motsweneng has been granted 3,000 rand bail in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court on the east of Joburg. The full circle continues. For SAFM News, Kimudupima Khaleme.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. And you can get a quote today by SMSing car to 43187. Need low-cost insurance for your older car? With Outsurance Essential, a 44-year-old woman pays only 465 rand a month for her 2011 silver VW Polo 1.5 comfort line and gets up to 1 million rand liability cover. That means that if you cause an accident, the other car will be covered up to 1 million rand. Get Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 125,000 rand. It's time to switch and save by SMSing car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Remember that Outsurance is a licensed FSP and T's and C's do apply.
Devastated by the brutal murder of his wife, John Luther returns in the second season of Luther to policing in a different world. With his old unit gone, Luther finds himself working in the newly created Serious and Serial unit, headed by former police complaints officer Martin Schenk. And now, a strange and mysterious masked man wanders the streets of London, carrying out ritualistic murders in historic locations, working his way up to one final masterpiece. Immerse yourself in a world-class drama with Luther Season 2, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Starts Tuesday the 10th of September on S3. Channel your inner drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
The wait is finally over, and we can safely say that Tropica Island of Treasure is back to serve you some really great entertainment. Tune into S3 from the 28th of September to cheer on the 7 teams who will be vying to win a shared prize of 1 million Rand, a brand new car each, and become the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure Season 11. Fancy 50,000 bucks? Predict the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure and you might be sipping that cold, refreshing Tropica all the way to the bank. Follow at MyTropica and at SABC3 for more information. Channel your inner champion with Tropica Island of Treasure starts Saturday the 28th of September at 6:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
The breakers of the barriers have demonstrated that bravery, courage, and excellence often exceed any boundaries and limits. This exhilarating moment is the 19th edition to celebrate and honor the tangible impact of women in sport. Experience the Momentum G-Sport Awards 2024 on Thursday, 12 September at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
She talks, the way she walks, it really drives me crazy. I think I like the girl, enjoys the moment, and takes her time, and does it right, cause she's not just an average. I really like you, girl. And there's something about her lips, the way she kissed, the way she rocks them hips, y'all. I see I like you, sure. It is so sweet, and that's me right up off my feet now, baby. See, I like sugar. Oh, girl, I'll never give you up. 'Cause ain't no It's just too damn good. So I can tell the world, you got my heart. I love your mind design. To my album. Come on, Stevie.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. Raphael Sadiq coming through, featuring Stevie Wonder on this one with Never Give Up. That is how we kick off the second hour of the show. We thought we'd give you a little soulful flavor, combining two incredible musicians. Having now a conversation, because it's Thursday and we're looking at our legal guide, we're having a conversation around understanding boundaries of when management styles cross into workplace harassment. And of course, we're going to find out the legalities around that circumstance. And if you have anything, by the way, that personal and professional experience that resonates with this conversation, you're more than welcome to share, because I know a lot of folks work under hostile environments and perhaps you don't know what to do about your situation or how to tackle the complexities of it, because it does involve you and your boss. We have a legal expert, a legal mind, a partner at Bowman. It has the Gilfillian fallen away?
Officially, it is Bowman Gilfillan, but we go by Bowman's.
You're trying to be cool?
I think it's globally accepted.
It's globally accepted now. Spusi Sadube is joining us, who's a partner at Bowman. And of course, they are a leading legal firm in South Africa. And they handle these kinds of things amongst other things as well. Let's talk about, I guess, from the onset. Firstly, how are you, Spusis?
I'm good, thanks. And just to say, we're a leading African firm.
Oh, excuse me. A leading African firm, even not just in South Africa, but on the continent. We've been kikiing offline, so that's why I just jumped into the conversation, yes, because we've been chatting for like the last 15 minutes or so. But let's distinguish between what one would call bad management, a bad manager, and perhaps what then crosses into bullying, workplace bullying by a person in an authoritative or management position.
Yeah. So I think very often, managers, especially who work in high pressure kind of situations or environments, I think very often the pressure gets to them and they can tend to be a bit harsh. So just to give an example, I've got a tight deadline. I'm the manager and you as Bridget missed that deadline. I might be harsh with you. I might shout at you, I might yell, whatever the case may be. And let's say this happens 3 times, right? So very often employees will then feel like my manager is harassing me, my manager is always shouting at me, or my manager is always yelling at me, right? It seems like it is harassment, and it kind of fits, the description of what harassment is now being defined as. But when you look at the context within which this shouting and yelling happened, it came about because you as the employee missed a deadline, right? So as your manager, by shouting and yelling at you many times because you're missing deadlines, that's not really harassment, right? That's me being, let's say, a bad manager, because I don't have to shout, I don't have to yell. I can take up the issue with you in a different and more constructive way, in a way that's not going to cause you anxiety or depression or whatever the case may be. So that is management, right? Me calling you for not meeting a deadline, me wanting you to perform at a particular level, me responding to you being insubordinate, and it may be harsh at times, but that's me being your manager. Whereas harassment or bullying, on the other hand, right, that's really where I am now targeting you as an individual, and it's consistent, it's repeated, there's no reason for it. So, for example, every time we are in a meeting, you try and say something and I shut you down, right? Every time I am shutting you down, or I am calling you names, right? So in this meeting, I'm shutting you down, I'm calling you stupid, or telling you, look, nobody wants to hear from you, just keep your thoughts to yourself. So that kind of conduct where you kind of single someone out and you repeatedly, let's say, abuse them, that's when we then now looking into conduct that may be seen as harassment, bullying, whatever the case may be. It obviously manifests itself differently, but when it's targeted at an individual for no reason, then that's when we're looking into the realm of bullying, harassment, etc.
Okay. And I know from a legal perspective, obviously there is a definition, right, that outlines certain elements of, because sometimes people need to have the thing spelled out for them. So what are the parameters as defined by law of this, that, and that, and that constitute harassment. And then everything outside of that perhaps is left to then me and you interpreting it as my representative and showing a pattern of.
Yeah. So the first thing is that the conduct has to be unwanted. Okay, so manager does something, or it can be a fellow employee, fellow colleague.
Yeah.
They do something to you which is unwanted. Second, it must impair your dignity. Mm-hmm. Okay, and thirdly, it must create a hostile work environment. And I think very often the difficulty comes in assessing whether or not this actually impaired your dignity. You'll find people where their manager calls them over the weekend and they say, my manager's harassing me. Mm-hmm. They've been calling me over the weekend. That's not harassment. Your manager probably shouldn't be calling you over the weekend.
That's just a lack of boundaries.
That's just a lack of boundaries, right? So that's not harassment. So is it impairing your dignity, and is it causing a hostile work environment? This is obviously all very subjective, right? Mm-hmm. Because as people, we are different. There's certain conduct which I, as Usbusiso, can tolerate. I don't find it as being unwanted. I don't think it impairs my dignity, etc. And perhaps someone else could be quite sensitive, and someone could walk past them and look at them in a particular way, and they could find that offensive, right? So it could be, well, every time you walk past me, you look at me in a derogatory manner, or, you look at me in a manner that I just find offensive, and this happens every time. And so that person might feel harassed by that conduct. But we then need to establish whether a reasonable person in your position, right, if someone walks past them and looks at them, right, would a reasonable person in that position feel like they are being harassed. And that's the test, right? So that's where we then try and assess, is this conduct really harassment or not, based on how a reasonable person would have experienced it.
Very interesting matters of interpreting the law. It's just gone 20 past 2 o'clock. By the way, if you have a point of question that maybe, or you have your own situation, our WhatsApp line is open on 061-410-4107. He's not going to charge you the big bucks today, so sneak it in right now.
Unlock a world of benefits. Welcome to SABC's TV License Rewards program. Ready to make your viewing experience more rewarding? Say hello to perks that go beyond just watching TV. Join us today at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and instantly receive your first reward. But wait, there's more. You can get up to 500 Rand back. Become part of something bigger, a movement where watching TV isn't just a hobby. It's a catalyst for positive change. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and open the door to a world of benefits. Plus, every time you tune in, you're making a difference. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments, they make a difference.
EFC is live this Thursday. The bantamweight title is on the line, live from the World Sports Betting Arena, as the top-ranked divisional contenders and perennial fan favorites Faiz Jacobs and Vince Bembe go to war.
Oh, big right from Faiz Jacobs. The finish is over. What a win. When he smells blood, he hunts mercilessly for the finish.
EFC is live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
We have got the legal expertise today of partner out at Bowman's. Smusiso Dube is joining me, one of the leading law firms on the African continent, and we're talking around understanding boundaries of when management styles cross into workplace harassment, and perhaps even what is your legal recourse if you find yourself in a situation where you think or it feels like harassment by your manager, your line manager, your superior, your boss, whatever you call them. Your supervisor in the workplace. Let's talk about, we've outlined what harassment versus bad manager is, right? And sort of the legality of that definition. If you feel, Spusiso, that maybe you are in a situation that, from what you've just said in the last few minutes, sounds and looks like harassment. What would you advise a client to do? Because it oftentimes becomes a case of he said, she said, and an interpretation of, but I didn't mean it like that, and you just took it like that.
Yeah.
So how do we go about sort of documenting it for the purposes of some kind of legal action?
Yeah, I'd say perhaps maybe the first step and one of the requirements is that the, let's say, perpetrator, they ought to know that the conduct is unwanted. So I'd say maybe as a first step, just depending on how this harassment is happening and who it is, because I think that also matters.
Yeah.
You could, via email, send an email to the person, let them know that, look, this is what you did, this is how it made me feel, right? If you find that uncomfortable, there is HR. And obviously, it all depends on just the level of the conduct that you're experiencing. So there is HR. You can go to HR, speak to them about your experiences and what you're experiencing. Very often, the first step will be for you to lodge a formal grievance. So that's generally the first step when one is experiencing any bullying or harassment or whatever the case may be. And that would be regulated by your workplace's harassment policy or your workplace's grievance policy. So that's generally the first step. And depending on the severity of that harassment, that may trigger an investigation. There's also an informal process where for example, you don't think it's at a very serious stage in that moment.
Yeah.
You just want a conversation with that person. You just want someone to assist in you having a conversation with that person, to let them know that what you're doing is actually causing me anxiety. It's causing me stress. So that would be an informal process. So that's an option as well. But if you want a more formal process, then that would then require an actual investigation. And if arising from the investigation, they find that, there is actually harassment, then that person may then be subjected to some disciplinary process.
Now, a lot of people get uncomfortable around what you've just said, right? Because some folks, it just exacerbates the situation or makes you a target.
Yeah.
Is there ways of getting around this with some kind of anonymity, or it's completely impossible? Because at some point, you have to name yourself as the person with the grievance.
This is the challenge or the struggle that we have when dealing with cases of harassment, right? Is that people want to remain anonymous. So yes, you can definitely report it and remain anonymous. But what that then creates is a challenge for your employer, because how do I bring someone to a trial where their accuser is not there, right? So you are being accused of harassing Anonymous. How do I defend myself against that? So it causes a real difficulty and a challenge, and that is something that we are still grappling with. How do we actually get around the fact that people want to report harassment, but they want to remain anonymous?
Very tricky situation. Our lines are open, by the way. He won't be here for very long. So if you do have something that you'd like assistance with that regards your relationship with, your boss or your superior, 06141041007 is our WhatsApp line. You can ask very anonymously if you so wish, or 086-000-2032. It's the best legal advice you'll ever get. And I don't know how much they charge at Bowman, but I can tell you now, for an hour of his time, you're probably talking in the thousands. And here he is for free. 06141041007 is our WhatsApp line. Let's talk about documenting it, right? Just quickly before we go into the headline news, is it important in cases like this? Because you'll find, like with cases of abuse, like physical abuse, people talk about document it somewhere. Should you be documenting things like this? They said this, they did this on this day at this time in this meeting.
Yeah, look, that would certainly help. It helps in creating a timeline. It helps in corroborating your version at a later stage. If you even go as far as sending an email to that particular person, recording what happened, that certainly does help.
Okay, let's take a quick pause for the headline news, and then we'll come right back.
Afternoon with the news headlines at 2:30. Ke Mudupi Makhalemele. KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says the murder of the 7 members of the Nkambula family at Echobeni in the High Flats was planned. 2 suspected criminals have been set alight in a mob justice incident at Mudeti village in Denelton in Limpopo, and the UN Security Council has unanimously voted to extend sanctions against Sudan for another year. Details of these and other stories at the top of the hour.
SAFM leading the conversation.
All right, let's go to WhatsApp for a comment on workplace bullying.
Good afternoon, Bridget. This is Madlazi from Pretoria. I feel like I was bullied by management and everyone because I was unwanted, and I just found myself in an environment where nobody wanted me because I was blocking people's development and about mobility. So what I decided was, because I was isolated, I decided they can stay there, I'll stay here, and I became withdrawn. And then eventually I was called, unfriendly. But people kicked me to the curb. And then when I sat in my corner, And then now it was my fault. I'm like, this is bullying, and I'm not going to tolerate it. I'm just going to take it as it is.
And we've got another question here. So my wife works for a remote firm. However, following a dispute with her bosses, she's being forced to do an hour commute to work daily, and the contract stipulates that she has to go to the office occasionally. Can this be considered as workplace bullying?
No, I don't think that can be considered as workplace bullying, but, one would look rather into whether or not that amounts to a unilateral change to a terms and conditions of employment. But I wouldn't categorize it as workplace bullying.
Okay. And unilateral change, so if it's happening retrospectively, do you have the option, or are you in a position as an employee to go and challenge and say, well, you can't enforce something retrospectively?
Yeah, so certainly with a unilateral change in the terms and conditions of employment, you would have recourse. There's certain steps or actions you can take going to the CCMA, but yeah, they would be able to advise at the CCMA what kind of matter, what kind of case you can refer where you feel that your employer has changed your working conditions unilaterally.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, codes of conduct and harassment policies. And you guys say that these have to be in place at the workplace.
Yes.
In the instances where they are not, or talk to employers who have not considered these, because no matter how small your business or organization is, you should be thinking about the what if scenario.
Yeah, so in March 2022, there was this code that came into effect. It's the Code of Good Practice on the Prevention and Elimination of Harassment in the Workplace. And that's the particular code that provides that employers must have harassment policies in place. They must train their employees on harassment, and they must constantly educate them. Because really what it does is it assists employees who don't know how to deal with harassment in the workplace. If you don't have a policy and you are being harassed, then you don't know what it is that you need to do to ensure that the harassment is being dealt with. So that's really why a policy is there. It's to guide employees, because if an employer does not assist employees who are being harassed, then those employees can actually sue the employer, and the conduct of the perpetrator is then regarded as the conduct of the employer.
Mrs., are you able to actually take legal action if you are being harassed, whether by a colleague or a manager, and you follow the HR practices and whatever gets concluded, but are you able to then take legal action privately, maybe outside of work?
So you would start by going through the workplace process first, right? So exhausting the internal remedies that you do have. And if your employer does nothing, then you may approach the CCMA, right? However, I think what you're asking about is perhaps, an action for damages or whatever the case may be, which, South Africa, we're not like Americans, right? You can't just sue for anything. So you need to have a cause of action. And if you are claiming damages, you need to quantify those damages and you need to prove those damages, right? So how are you going to prove, for example, you caused me to have a panic attack and I blacked out and I was hospitalized and these are my bills. How are you going to prove objectively that I am the direct cause of your panic attack?
Got you.
Because that is what you'd need to prove.
Got you.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, I was spending hours and hours with the psychologist, and maybe those records were there that I'm talking about how you harass me. Let's go to WhatsApp and hear what else is on your mind.
Hi, Bridget. I'm currently in a situation where my supervisor, who is a lecturer for my thesis, is actually giving me different treatment as compared to other students. He will not be available for us to meet so that I can progress with my academic work. He will intentionally switch off my voice when we have Zoom meetings, where I will not be heard on the Zoom meeting platform, or if I try to type a question on the chat line, he will ignore it. And it's been happening for the past 2 months. It's really creating a lot of anxiety. I'm currently embarking on reporting him via the university. I just wanted to know from Sbusiso, what else can I do? Thank you.
Interesting. I mean, and that's your supervisor, right?
Yeah.
So what happens in that case? Because this person is supposed to be part of your academic journey.
Yeah. So I think what the listeners mentioned about reporting, that's the step to take. This sounds like something that could definitely amount to harassment. It sounds like she is being treated differently, that she is being targeted, she is being ostracized. There's an element of, I could say, sabotaging her work. So that all fits into the definition of harassment, and the step to take is to report him. And once she has reported him, let's let that process unfold.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the first step is always the reporting, perhaps keeping also the documentation of the things that are happening and how they're happening and where they're happening. And would you say in this case, in cases like this, no offense is too small for you to document?
Oh, yeah, certainly. At the end of the day, once the person who is causing the harassment is being dealt with, right? They'll obviously look at the extent of the harassment. How serious is the harassment? Because not all harassment is equal. There's different levels to this thing. So certainly record as much as you can to the extent that it is possible to do so. And it could be that the harassment will be progressive, right? So you'd then be able to illustrate that, I almost broke into song. Started here, now we're here. But you can then illustrate that this is where we started, and we progressed over time, and this is what the harassment looks like now. But it's also very important, like I've said, to the extent that you are able to do so and you're comfortable to do so, you need to let the person know that what they are doing is unwanted. Because some people don't actually know that what they are doing is wrong.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Sbusiso, we appreciate the time with you this afternoon. That was Sbusiso Dube, a partner out at Bowman, coming through to share some of the expertise with us. Hope you got some good advice when you were listening there. Approach with caution. Have the courage to tell the person, alert them to their behaviors perhaps at the beginning, see if things change or they don't change, and then take the necessary action. It's 22. It's time for us to take a quick pause, and then we come back and we get into Kids Corner.
When self-made billionaire Wilton Knight rescues police detective Lieutenant Michael Long after a near-fatal shot to the face, he gives him a new identity and a new name, Michael Knight. Paired with the unique Knight Industries 2000 aka Kit, they are brought in during situations where direct action might provide the only feasible solution. Kusazo Shuba and Michael Knight and Kit are ready to rise to the occasion. Channel your best retro with Knight Rider, weekdays at 12 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The breakers of the barriers have demonstrated that bravery, courage, and excellence often exceed any boundaries and limits. This exhilarating moment is the 19th edition to celebrate and honor the tangible impact of women in sport. Experience the Momentum G Sport Awards 2024 on Thursday, 12 September at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
friends, and welcome to Nali Bali. Developing curiosity helps a child to be willing and able to continually grow, learn, and question what is around them. It helps to develop an imagination and a sense of creativity that gives us as children the basic tools we need to be successful adults. Today's story is called What's in the Pot, written by Laurie and Preston. But before we listen to today's story, let's all get up and dance! Zaza and Ayo were spending the weekend at their grandmother's house.
We're bored.
They mourned.
Well, why don't you build a puzzle or play a game?
Suggested Granny.
Boring.
Sang the children.
Oh, I know,
said Granny, lowering her voice to a whisper.
Why don't you try to make a dragon?
Granny, there's no such thing as dragons.
Said Zaza. The children chuckled.
Of course they are. How do you think I lost this thumb?
Said Granny, holding up her hand.
What? No ways, Granny.
Exclaimed Ayo. The children were shocked.
Making a dragon is very serious business,
warned Granny.
You have to get the recipe just right, or you could even end up with a rotten dragon, just like I did.
Ayo and Zaza looked at each other with eyes as big and round as pizzas. Could they really do it? Could they really make a dragon? The thought of it was both exciting and terrifying.
Can we have the recipe, please?
Zaza asked Granny.
Sadly, I can't remember it,
said Granny, not looking sad at all. The children were a bit disappointed, but then Ayo's eyes lit up.
I know. Perhaps we should try coming up with our own recipe.
He said.
Yes. Let's do it.
Said Zaza, jumping up and down. The children dragged Granny's big three-legged pot outside the garden, ready to begin their dragon-making adventure.
What ingredients should we add?
Zaza asked.
Let's add in a whole lot of stuff,
suggested Ayo, grinning. The two children set to work. First, they put things from the garden into the pot. Leaves, dried twigs, grass, small stones, and a bit of different plants like lavender and hibiscus. They even put some mud.
I wonder what our dragon's going to look like,
said Ayo.
I bet it'll look super cool,
exclaimed Zaza. Next, the children searched inside the house for more ingredients. They collected old crayons, half a bottle of bubble mixture, an old sock, cotton wool, Play-Doh, and a dash of glitter. They added this to the pot and put a whole lot of cold water. They then began to stir and mix with sticks.
Zaza, do you really think this is a good idea? I hope it's not going to be a dodgy dragon,
said Ayo, looking a little worried.
Yeah, me too. I kind of like my thumbs.
Agreed, Zaza. Then she thought of something.
How are we gonna cook this mixture anyways? We're not allowed to play with matches.
She said, but she didn't need to wonder about that for long. As the children stared, smoke began to rise from the pot. Whoa! The children shouted in surprise. Then the mixture started to crackle and pop. It babbed and babbled, and the pot shook violently. The children stepped back, watched in amazement as the pot made a loud sound, like thunder booming through the air. And then, fireworks exploded out of the pot. And out popped a dragon.
Yay! We did it! We made a dragon! Woo!
Squealed the children with delight. Zaza turned to the dragon and nervously asked,
Are you a friendly dragon?
Of course I am, silly.
Said the dragon, smiling.
Hooray!
We did it! Shouted the children. Granny came outside to see what all the noise was about.
Oh, I see. You made a dragon. And I see it's friendly, not mean. Well done. But can you remember the recipe?
She asked. Ayo, Zaza looked at each other.
Uh-oh.
They couldn't remember the recipe. And although they spent months and months trying to make another dragon, they never could. But they didn't give up hope. They knew that one day someone else would figure it out. And just maybe that someone is you. And so we come to the end of another Nali Bali story time. Today's story was called What's in the Pot, written by Lorian Preston. Did you know that reading and telling stories to children at home can help them do better at school? If you want free stories to read to your children or for your children to enjoy on their own, visit Nali Bali website www.nalibali.org or Mobi site www.nalibali.mobi. You will find stories in 11 South African languages, as well as tips for reading and sharing stories with your children to grow their potential. Also look out for the bilingual Nali Bali Reading for Enjoyment supplements with great children's stories and activities available in newspapers. Nali Bali, it starts with a story.
SAFM leading the conversation.
Liverpool FC have collected maximum points in their opening 3 matches of the 2024-2025 season. They want more victories.
Look at the white shirts coming here. Salah scores at Old Trafford again.
Meanwhile, Forest want to dictate terms at Anfield.
High towards the back post. Wood with a free header. Yes! 1-0 Forest. Chris Wood scores.
This is the Premier League. Catch the spectacular clash between Liverpool FC and Nottingham Forest on Saturday, 14 September at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that? Yes. I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
I mean, before we get to our last conversation, how quickly the clock has flown today. Let's head on over to WhatsApp. I was asking you earlier if you've got any friends outside of your race, just you and I having a casual conversation. So let's go to WhatsApp and hear what your thinking is around having friendships and friends that are outside of your race.
This is Bridget. Very good afternoon to you. Casey from the South. Interracial relationships. Me personally, I don't have one. I've never had one. And that is not to say that I'm against it or something. It's just a matter of you not being able to relate to somebody else's background or environment. And the same for them. I feel like we are different. There's a say that goes, environment is everything, right? So I'm from the township or I'm from the villages, and then I meet this person who's from the suburbs. Chances that we won't really click. So yeah, that's my take.
Hi to you and the listeners. I'm a black woman and I have always had friends of all races. I have, at this point in time, only one very tenuous relationship with one last white friend of mine. The rest of them seem to fall off because at some point in time, for lack of a better word, their colonizer tendencies came through, where they seemed genuinely offended that I was blessed with certain successes that they weren't. Some of these people studied teaching, and I went into a very specialized professional field, and they seem to be genuinely upset that I earn more money than they do. And it's almost this entitlement to, why do you have this and I can't afford it? I don't have that issue with any of my other friends. My Indian friends, my colored friends, and one Japanese gentleman, they don't have that issue. They have what they have, I have what I have, and we celebrate each other's successes. But it seems like the white friends get very upset when they're not the ones doing the best.
Not colonizer issues. I chuckled a little bit. Thank you so much for sharing. And our WhatsApp lines are still open. But waiting on the line patiently is Vuyolina, our Director of Marketing and Corporate Affairs at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And the JSE has launched the nationwide initiative to educate South African investors on how to claim in excess of 4.5 billion rand in unclaimed dividends. What a wowza. I get the feeling I'm one of those people. Vuyo, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, and you, Bridget, and hello to the listeners as well.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, let's talk about this 4.5 billion rand in unclaimed dividends. So what are the challenges that have led to this?
There are 4 challenges, Bridget, and I use the acronym BEAD. The first one is banking details, and people don't realize that when you change your banking details and you don't tell the share registry or the listed company that you have, it becomes very difficult to pay for the dividends when they arrive. The second one, E, is education. It's really, some people are not aware what dividends are. They don't know that companies do pay dividends. Some companies do not pay dividends. So when they do, some shareholders may not be aware that they have dividends due to them. And you won't believe this. Some people just plain forget. I spoke to somebody on Tuesday when we were launching the campaign, who came to me and said, after listening to my conversation, they went to check and they realized that they bought shares long time ago that they forgot about, and 10 years of dividends were waiting for them. So people do forget. The A is address and contact details. So when you change your address and your contact details, it'll straight you. So the tracing agents as well as the companies cannot find you. And then the one that is the most difficult really is the deceased estates, the D. You do have relatives who have shares. You're not aware they have the shares. When they wound up the estate, they don't include those in the estate. And the beneficiaries are clearly not aware that this is the situation. So there are a multitude of reasons, and they happen in different circumstances. Some people work in mines; they have shares given to them. They don't recover them. You've got people who were policy holders of insurance companies. When the insurance companies listed on the JSE, they were given shares. They are not aware of that. And there are many other situations. But at the heart of it, 4.5 billion is a big challenge. It's a lot of money that can make a difference in people's lives.
So how do we then, sort of get people educated and get people going out to see whether or not they've got dividends due to them? And you guys are collaborating with Baker Street Analytics around this, if I'm not mistaken, the tracing of lost shareholders.
Absolutely. I mean, we are actually trying to tackle all 4 issues. So the first one being education. A lot of people don't know dividends. They don't know how frequently dividends are paid, type of dividends, where the dates dividends would typically be paid by a company. So we are embarking on a 6-month education drive in collaboration with 10 of the issuers that have currently signed up for the initiative. These are issuers with very big shareholder bases, the likes of Old Mutual, Sasol, Vodacom, Yeboye, Roynet, and to name a few, Naspers, to name a few. So we're embarking on an education campaign, and we'll be leveraging on each other's platforms to actually educate. We do have information on our JSE website as well as our social media on the different aspects of dividends. And then we are putting in place a call center in February, which will be supported by a marketing campaign where we will go out and encourage people to actually claim their dividends. And it will be an inbound campaign where they contact us. And where Baker Street comes in is their analytics capability is so far advanced that they're able to give you some certainty on an individual and their address and their contact details, and also potential relatives of deceased shareholders on the back of a name, surname, and initial.
Okay.
So we are leveraging those kind of capabilities to be able to find people. But also, Bridget, we're also encouraging shareholders who are receiving dividends right now to please make sure you update your banking details as well as your address and telephone, because in 5 years' time, we don't want to be looking for those people either. So it's education, and then a call to action to say, come to our website, put your details in, check if you might have dividends with these 10 companies. There'll be 12 additional ones by the end of the year. And we aim that as people see the traction of this campaign, more companies will join in this movement.
Yeah. Vuyo, we have to wrap it there. Literally, I've got 20 seconds. Just give us the official platform, the online platform that folks can go in the meantime just to check and verify their current information.
This platform will be available only in February, but in the meantime, you can go to jse.co.za, click on JIF, which is one of our companies, and they'll have a phone number there. You'll be able to phone that phone number and find out if you have unclaimed dividends due to you.
Awesome stuff. That was Vuyo Lee, Director of Marketing and Corporate Affairs at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. JSE.co.za, in the meantime, is where you can go. Click on JIF, and they'll be able to see if you've got any unclaimed dividends that are due to you whilst you wait for that platform to come through in February. Maybe we'll catch up with them closer to that time. It's time for me to make way for Ashraf Gada and his team on the National Pulse. Madupi's coming through with the 3 o'clock news.